So, someone has given Tony Ferguson the bright idea to come back to mixed martial arts. I don't know who that person is, but along with Tony Ferguson, they need to put it inside a cell. And Tony Ferguson himself needs to be inside that cell with handcuffs on, with a straitjacket on, and the keys to the lock thrown away. Because honestly, at this point, Tony Ferguson cannot be allowed to be out and about in the free world. Earlier today, on the Mighty Mice YouTube channel, Tony Ferguson came out and was asked if he was going to fight again, and this was his response. You tell me what you think, and we'll react to it.
Yeah, I only put half a fucking glove in there and I got it back, so that just tells me I got both pairs of gloves. So, yep, we're going to probably take the rest of this season and figure some things out, and we're coming back hard either January or February.
So immediately Tony Ferguson says he took his glove back that he threw into the cage after the loss to Michael Chiesa, and apparently that means that he's eligible to fight again. He should not be eligible to fight. Dana White, step in here, take away his license to fight, ever. And I think that all the mixed martial arts promotions around the world need to come to like a unified decision for the health of Tony Ferguson to never ever let him fight. I'm not just talking about mixed martial arts, I'm talking about boxing. I'm talking about anything that can lead to any sort of pressure on the head or the brain. Because after a while, Tony Ferguson's going to get really badly hurt and injured. And I'm not talking about the kind of injury that you get surgeries on or you'd recover from. I'm talking about the kind of injuries that you have for life that don't go away, and you go away as a result of having those injuries, if you know what I mean, right? Anyway, let's continue on, but already it's a big red flag, and we should have seen this coming the way he was talking after the Michael Chiesa loss.
So stay tuned.
You're not retired full like DJ?
No, fuck no, I'm not retiring. I'm too old to retire. I'm 40 years old, I'm halfway to 80. I've been competing since I was 5 years old in multiple sports. I've wrestled in college, I've done all the other stuff, and you know what? It's not like I don't know anything else. I do. I'm still able to compete. When somebody can run a sprint.
So Tony Ferguson is talking about how he's too old to retire. Well, that's exactly why you should be retiring, Tony Ferguson. You're way too old, your brain's taken too much damage, your ligaments aren't the same, your bone density's gone down, your testosterone's just decreased by a significant amount. And why are you dressed like that, by the way? Why can I see the cameraman on his glasses on the ground, with his knees on the ground? Makes no sense. This is the state of Tony Ferguson's career. And also, you've never seen him dressed like this before. But this is a classic washed up dressing code I feel like that fighters have. Like they pan over to them in the crowd like years after their retirement, and they usually dress something like this, or in a costume that you wouldn't normally imagine them wearing. And this is exactly the stage of career that Tony Ferguson is in right now. And he says that he doesn't know, he knows better. He knows other things than fighting is basically what he said. I don't think he does. I don't think he has. I think he has enough money to have his own businesses, and I'm sure he has his own businesses. But I just think just fighting is just giving him such a boost in terms of fame, popularity, testosterone, even despite it being decreased. It's just hard to step away from fighting for some fighters and then be in that state in your life. Like, you get all this adrenaline your entire life. You're part of training camps, you're fighting. You're like thinking, this year I'm gonna fight 3 times, and then you get a win, and then you're like, okay, I'm only 2 fights away from the title. And that adrenaline, like that goal that you have at the end of the tunnel, it motivates you, it pushes you forward. But Tony Ferguson, I feel like he can't let go from that. And I don't think even he thinks that he will get to the title. He's even stopped talking about it. And after that loss to Chiesa, he was considering retirement, I think. Might have just trolled us all, to be honest. Because the moment he got backstage, he unretired and was talking about his next fight, next move, next coach, next training camp. And now, apparently, we've got the next date, which is apparently January and February. And the next thing he says is quite dumb, stupid talk.
Faster than me, then maybe I'll start to. I do. I'm still able to compete. When somebody can run a sprint faster than me, then maybe I'll start to consider it.
So apparently this is the state of mind that Tony Ferguson is living in right now. Apparently sprinting is the best pace for MMA, because apparently if you can sprint faster than Tony Ferguson, then he will consider retirement. I'm pretty sure a lot of fighters could probably outsprint Tony Ferguson. Anyone with melatonin in their skin, I would presume, could probably outsprint him at this stage. Maybe in his prime, not, but yeah, I think anyone with like a high level of melatonin in their skin, not melatonin, what is it called? Whatever it is, anyone that's black basically would probably outsprint Tony Ferguson. And I hope someone does. It's Bobby Green. Tony Ferguson 2 on the racetracks, 100-meter sprint. Let's do it. Anyway, Tony Ferguson also has all these excuses to why or whatever. Like, we'll get it. Let's just get into it.
But what it really needs is to find that coaching and that discipline around other people and being uncomfortable in practice, so that way you're not miserable in the fight. So it's being miserable in practice and then being comfortable in the fight, and that's where we're at right now.
So that's where Tony Ferguson is at right now, being uncomfortable in practice so he can be comfortable in the fight. I don't believe Tony Ferguson went 40 years of his life, and of those 40 years, apparently he's been competing since he was 5. So 35 of those years, he, for some reason, couldn't figure out that apparently you should go hard in training camp, so the fight eventually is easy for yourself. Maybe that's why he was in so much war. Maybe we never saw prime Tony Ferguson because he never took that approach. He was always slacking off in training camps, which I don't think is true. I've seen a lot of footage of Tony Ferguson training. Maybe not the best sort of training in terms of mixed martial arts. He was kicking a lot of like wooden planks and trees and stuff like that. But I highly doubt that Tony Ferguson went on a 12-fight win streak without ever realizing that maybe he should take training camps more seriously. You know what I mean? Especially, I mean, he was at one point arguably the best lightweight on the planet. Him and Khabib Nurmagomedov was like the conversation. You know what I mean? Him, Khabib, Conor. It was like a three-horse race at the time. But it's just, I don't believe Tony Ferguson when he's saying this. And again, the coaching thing, apparently he needs a new coach. How does that make any sense? It feels like after every single loss, Tony Ferguson is changing camps. I swear he's gotten rid of Eddie Bravo. After the Dariush loss, he was talking about getting rid of coaches and went with Brock Lesnar after a while, I believe. Like, went back with his tough coaches. I'm not sure if he actually ended up with Brock Lesnar, but I think he called him. They reconnected, I suppose. Before the Paddy Pimblett fight, he was with David Goggins and training with him for some reason for an MMA fight. And yeah, apparently he found some new training partners in terms of like sparring coaches. But now he's looking for even more coaches. It makes no sense, and it feels like there's an excuse after every single loss for Tony Ferguson, as we can see here. After the Bobby Green loss, he did get eye poked early into the fight, but according to Tony Ferguson, Bobby Green was shook up, like he was pooping himself apparently in that fight, and knew that he was going to lose, so he eye poked Tony Ferguson on purpose. First of all, that eye poke wasn't that bad. Like Tony Ferguson insinuates the doctor was wanting him to stop fighting in that fight. I don't think the doctor was doing that at all in any way, shape, or form that I can remember. But yeah, it was just weird stuff that he's coming up with all these excuses. Before the lose streak, I just thought Tony Ferguson would never be one of these fighters. Although, no, that's not true. I thought he would be one of those fighters that gets like brain damaged and goes kooky after his career ends. But I never took him for like a excuse maker, you know what I mean? Like, never thought he'd turn into this. And then he did the same thing after the Paddy Pimblett fight. Apparently, 2 weeks before Thanksgiving, he messed his MCL up. He tore it up. Didn't tell anyone until 3 weeks before the fight, where he told his crew, apparently. And then, apparently, this was right after a surgery that he had, which was on his elbow and his arm. Yeah. So that was the excuse after the Paddy Pimblett fight. Even though he had David Goggins, did he tell David Goggins? Like, was that the best move to make? Having David Goggins in your corner while having all these injuries, apparently? Was Goggins telling you to keep pushing through? I feel like he wasn't actually that injured. And it's just a coincidence after every single fight he's got an excuse. Like after Charles Oliveira fight, he was like on his YouTube channel, if you can find it. There was a video where he came out with where he said he was defending against Charles' jiu-jitsu quite well, and then how he should get points for doing that stuff. I don't understand that. Because Charles Oliveira honestly didn't do too much damage to Tony Ferguson, but he did basically, you know, wet blanket him. He took him down. Tony couldn't get up at all. He nearly snapped Tony's arm. And that was Tony Ferguson. And we should have seen this coming, because after the Michael Chiesa loss, he went backstage, gave an interview, and he was completely delusional the whole time. Listen to what he had to say. No excuses, but immediately excuses.
No bullshit. I felt slow. I felt sluggish. I think we could see that on the wrestling side of me. My fault, obviously, for warming up. We didn't.
So he felt slow, he felt sluggish. No BS, obviously, but immediately he gets into the BS. And yeah, apparently it's his fault for warming up before a fight. And apparently warming up before a fight at the age of 40 leads to you being slow and sluggish. Or maybe he meant to say not warming up before a fight. That would make more sense to me. But I'm not even sure with Tony Ferguson. I'm not even sure he knows what he's saying. Like it's sometimes like the interviewer asks him a question like, hey, Tony Ferguson, what's this all about? Then Tony Ferguson goes on like a 2-minute rant, tells them the fans will follow him anywhere. And then he always says, trust. No, not trust. He says something. I can't remember now. But he says, let's be real, or something along those lines. You know what I mean? And then he always gets really fake, in my opinion, because his brain, I don't think he's trying to be. I just think his brain is just too damaged.
Didn't do a shakeout this morning, even though I probably should have or thought about it. That's the reality of the sport. If you can't just focus on one thing. And we did a lot of sparring. Obviously, you could see that out there. I felt pretty good on my feet. Timing Kiesa's different antics.
Nah, forget the next stuff. But apparently, yeah, I think he was saying about not warming up, and that's why he was slow and sluggish. Oh no, he did warm up. Or didn't. I can't even tell now, because he said he didn't shake up in the morning. So, at this stage of the game, at the age of 40, after all these fights, you're not doing that stuff, Tony Ferguson. Either you're one of the stupid people that don't have a chromosome, or you're trolling, or you're lying to us, because you can't keep selling us after every single fight. You did something wrong, you did this wrong, this went wrong, this went wrong, this went wrong. After 8 straight losses, you would imagine someone has it all figured out. They know where they're going and can pull it together, if they have anything to pull together. Let's go to 1 minute and 27 seconds of this interview. I'm just going to quickly go over some of the things that he did after the Michael Chiesa fight. That quite clearly implied he wasn't retiring, but we had hope.
It's mine. So a lot of things, obviously, I need to work on, but it's all putting together, obviously, getting in there and feeling more comfortable inside that octagon.
At the age of 40, after countless fights, now it's all about getting comfortable inside the octagon. How does that make any sense? You're 40 years old, you've had an entire career, and an entire career plus 8 fights too long in that career. And now it's about getting comfortable in the cage? What? Why aren't these reporters calling him out on this? Like, someone should have asked him right now at this exact moment. Hey, Tony, what are you on about? You've had so many fights, have you never been comfortable in the octagon? Or is it just a new thing, like after the losing skid, all of a sudden you're not comfortable in the octagon and that's why you're losing? And not the fact that you're... You know, since the Nate Diaz fight onwards, after the Michael Chandler KO, he has been terrible. And he was already washed before that, don't get me wrong, he was washed before that, but after that KO, he's been... That's one of the worst fights of all time. Nate Diaz versus Tony Ferguson, and then after that, he's just looked like crap ever since. We continue.
Sometimes when you lose, or when you get hit, or when you get knocked out, sometimes the lights, when you get in there, you see it in the fighter's eyes, that you can kind of be like, oh, he's not in here. I felt normal in there for a second. I was like...
The light is off in your eyes, Tony. It's been off for a while. It's off in your brain as well. You can't think straight, man. I almost said mate. But you can't think straight, mate. That light you're talking about, Tony Ferguson, it's just another excuse. Like, you were there for a second. That fight lasted 2 minutes. And of those 2 minutes, he looked good for like 45 seconds. He was getting the better of Michael Chiesa on the feet. But that's not really an accomplishment, though. It's Michael Chiesa on his own little journey down the rankings. He's sliding down with you, Tony. He's just right behind you. It'll take him a second because he's a bigger dude, or, you know? He's right behind you. After you get off the slide, it's his turn next. This cannot be the light in your eyes. How could you tell? The fight went for 2.5 minutes, I think, at most. And you put up no resistance on the ground, by the way. None whatsoever. Let's just get that out of the way. Oh, Jesus. I wonder if he says something intelligent soon.
Like, okay, I'm in this zone. This is where I belong. If I didn't feel that, then it would be easier for me to throw both of my gloves down. That's why it was a little bit harder for me to kind of decide. Obviously, I'm going to go and talk to him.
Nah, shut up, Tony Ferguson. Apparently, it would have been easier for him to decide if he didn't see that flare in himself. You know, like that moment of... If he said this after the Chandler fight, all power to him. I thought he should have retired after the Chandler fight. That's how long I've wanted him gone. Not because I hate him, but just because I just don't want to see him get hurt over and over again. It's so sad. It's just so sad. Like, every time he fights, I come in with the hope that this is the one, like, I put some money on Tony Ferguson. I'm like, okay, I know he's going to lose, but just for the fun of it, I'm not going to bet against Tony Ferguson. I love him too much. And then every time, it's the worst way to go out. No chance of winning at any point in the fight. Dominated for the most part, either takedowns or even on the feet against Bobby Green. And the Michael Chiesa one was the last, like, straw. It was the shortest, there's the last straw, not the shortest straw. It's terrible to listen to. Let's skip on to 2 minutes and 29 seconds. And he's smiling. Like he knows something that we don't.
understand it, right? This is what you live to do and stuff. But what would have to happen in the cage for you to realize, like, okay, my time has come and it is time for me to walk away?
Keep in mind, he's being asked these questions. Oh, what would it take you to retire? In the cage, he already retired about 30 minutes ago. 30 minutes before this interview, I think he retired. And backstage, he's already making plans for his next fight. He's like, I need to do this, there needs to be this play, and let's go down this path and see what happens. And why? You retired. And the reporters, they're like, okay, so what needs to happen for you to retire permanently? Obviously, that was all bullshit. The reporters need to say, Tony, we don't want to see you like this anymore, man. Like, it's over. Like, we're done. But then Tony still would twist it in some way, I'm sure. But let's listen how he responds to this.
I know when it will. There's a lot of things that I can and can't do. I just teamed back up with my boy, Anthony Gonzalez from American Gym.
I don't care what he says next. What do you mean you'll know? You knew! In the cage, one glove! Apparently you need to talk to your wife and then make a decision. You haven't even talked to your wife. I swear you came back straight here. He just said he wants to talk to his wife earlier, I swear to God. So without even talking to your wife, you're already making plans to coming back and fighting this guy and making a run to the title. He hasn't said that exactly, but he's already talking about how he can improve, needs to be comfortable. Like, you're 40, you're not making improvements, Tony. You're going down. The more you train, the worse you're going to get at this stage of the game. Because your body's going to get more worn down, it's going to get more hurt, the tendons, they tear, the bones, they break. Just simple stuff, and now we're going to move on to another point into the fucking interview. Sorry for swearing. 4 minutes and 23 seconds. It's just frustrating listening to a man just throw away his life. Literally, like in a literal sense.
And that's the humblest thing I can fucking say, because no matter where I'm at, no matter what I'm doing, I'm going to get better and better and better and better. I feel like these gray hairs right here with the blonde hair, you know, are kind of slowly fading away too.
They're not fading away, Tony. You just keep dying him over and over again. You're not that young dude anymore. We saw your pre-fight ritual, which you do in the cage, where you slide side to side on your knees. And you looked old and you tumbled over your own knees and it was just sad. I'm getting a little bit animated here, but I need to, I feel like. I feel like I need to be... Because it's so stupid to me that someone hasn't stopped this. Like Hunter Campbell and Dana White have not just gone, Tony, like, we need to stop. But the worst thing about this is those scumbag promotions like PFL and other BKFC. I don't want to see him there. I don't want to see him take more damage at BKFC. But you know for a fact those promotions, they're just so small and they need some name power. Tony Ferguson is a huge name. But don't be surprised if you all of a sudden see Tony Ferguson versus Usman Nurmagomedov in PFL for a title. They'll pay Tony and they don't care about him, and so neither does Dana. If Dana White lets him fight again, like, you Dana, you know what I mean? I'm not gonna say it, but you Dana. Jesus. And this is the last thing he says before I'm gonna go on to Dana White. And
so I'm gonna have to do something different, which is, you know, obviously find a new team, which is cool. I found a good sparring team, but I'm gonna have to go and start wrestling a little bit more.
Look at that. Just look at that position he's standing in, like, just completely nothing behind his eyes, just like a fucking puppet, a clay doll without a brain, Pinocchio without the boy, you know what I mean? Like, he's just gone. He's gone, and he is Pinocchio because he's lying out of his teeth with all these excuses, and he'll get better and he's the new team. He's swapped teams so many times, it just feels like there isn't a team out there for you, Tony. Like, if any team takes you in, it's just because you're a legend and they don't want to say disrespect you to your face. But be self-aware. Like, this level of unself-awareness is insane to me. Like, making a fool of yourself. It's like when you're drunk at a party and then you can't control yourself. You think you're being really funny and everyone is entertained by you, but you're really making a fool out of yourself, pulling your pants down. You know what I mean? Don't ask me why I chose that exact example. But anyway, now, after the Paddy Pimblett fight, Dana White had this to say, and I'm not sure why after that fight he let him fight even further. Because Dana White's a scumbag himself, but let's listen to it. Let's see what his exact words were.
What do you do with Tony Ferguson moving forward? Because obviously he took a lot of damage in that first round, but then he tried to fight back, and I think that's what, 7 losses in a row now.
I would love to see Tony retire.
And what do you go with Paddy Pimblett? Obviously,
that's it. No, don't need to listen to the rest of the part. Afterwards, Dana White says, oh, well, Tony Ferguson looked decent before losing his other fights, but tonight he didn't look good. If that's the case, why didn't you just let him go? Like, just get him out of the UFC. And I'm not saying this because I hate Tony Ferguson. I don't want him to make a living. But set him up with a job. Make him not you can't make him a coach, but give him a job as a PI. You know, as a trainer or as a. I don't think he's intelligent or fully there to be a commentator or an analyst, but you know, I'm sure there's things he can do. Make him one of those catchers at the slap fighting. You know, what you did to Forrest Griffin. Make it one of the catchers. Give him a job. Give him something to do. And I swear, if I see Tony Ferguson slap, oh, I didn't even think about that. Imagine that, Tony Ferguson on slap fighting. I'd watch, but I'd only watch because it's funny. And at the end of the day, like, when Tony Ferguson gets KO'd at slap fighting, it's just... It'll be funny for the first, like, 2 minutes, and then you'll realize, holy shit, that's Tony Ferguson on the floor, not moving, unconscious, with powder all over his face. You know what I mean? Let's stop this. Let's stop this now. This news just came out. I need Dana White to be asked a question in his next interview by a reporter. Is Tony Ferguson coming back? And then the reporter needs to pressure Dana White into giving him an answer. I don't want to hear from Dana White. Oh, I don't know. Oh, I haven't really heard about this. Have you? What? You know what he does? Like, he can't hear you after a while. He's asking questions to the person over there like he doesn't have a clue what's going on. Tony Ferguson? Have we had a chat with him recently? You know what I mean? That's what he's going to do. Pressure him, ask him, please, we don't want to see this. Don't say that to him, but just be like, so what's happening? He says he's coming back. Is he coming back? Can we stop him from coming back? Is there anything we can do to stop him? Like, share, and subscribe. Really, I knew Tony Ferguson wouldn't retire. And I thought I would see him at BKFC before I see him in the UFC. But the way Tony Ferguson was talking about it, January, February, it's like he already has a date planned. Apparently he's had chats with Hunter Campbell, Dana White, the people backstage. Someone needs to stop this because it's getting a little bit out of hand now. Alright, thank you. Like, share, and subscribe. Again, 36 subscribers. Amazing stuff. Let's get me to 40.